All right. Hello, everybody. I am Paula Ludwig with the Atlantic Institute of South Carolina. I see that we have people joining from all over, and that is awesome. The Atlantic Institute is about promoting positive dialogue between different faiths, cultures, religions, just meeting your next door neighbor kind of thing. I'm going to show you a short video about the Atlantic Institute, and then I'm going to turn this over to Natalie for our spaghetti squash chicken chow mein. This is a big word full and it looks really good. So I'm going to do that now. Why do I do this myself?
Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting harmonious coexistence between peoples of various cultures, faiths, and backgrounds. We seek this goal through peaceful dialogue, education initiatives, and community organization. Our dialogue events bring together experts, community and faith leaders, and knowledge seekers to address social issues that affect us all. We feel dialogue is the most important element in peaceful coexistence, so we try and maintain several panel discussions, TED Talk events, book clubs throughout the year. These events touch on social issues, race relations, and cultural understanding, and are a mainstay of our programming. The Atlantic Institute's education events are extremely important to our mission of understanding. We want to promote socially forward critical thinking to students of all ages. To that end, we have developed programs that seek to grow the creative spirit of students and help them think about their communities and the world around them. Our Future Leaders of Dialogue event brings together nominated elite students to learn from each other as well as political and business leaders. Our art and essay contest gives students a theme about important societal issues and allows them to create wonderful works of art and writing while steering their minds towards improving their world. We're always seeking ways to educate youth and adults in order to make a peaceful world for all of us. Our community events are designed to transform neighbors into friends and groups of people into a community. By associating with other nonprofits or by our own initiative, we are always trying to discover new avenues to improve our neighborhoods, places of worship, and community centers. We host cooking demonstrations of food from other cultures, work with various nonprofits to help elevate the work of others, and try to find a way to make the lives of those who are disenfranchised or marginalized better. Building a more peaceful world starts in our backyards, so we are dedicated to improving our communities and associations. The Atlantic Institute is always seeking like-minded volunteers and collaborators. If you would like to learn more, find volunteer opportunities, or just want to chat with our staff, please visit our website at www.atlanticinstitutesc.org or follow us on Facebook. We will never run out of fun, educational, peaceful events. So come, join us to help make this world a better place full of understanding and unity.
All right, thank you. I will not be sending the recording in a link. We have an Atlantic Institute SC YouTube channel that all of our events are that we've recorded are posted to, and all of the cooking demos, as well as our cultural creations that we do once a month, are all out there. And that is Atlantic Institute's SC YouTube channel. So I'm going to turn this over to Natalie now. And I want to thank her again for doing this. And we're going to go ahead and go forward. Let me add spotlights. Remove spotlights.
There I am. Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie Copeland, and I am the owner of Flavored Fork, which is a mobile cooking business here in Lexington, South Carolina. My business focuses on cooking traditional meals, but in a healthier way. And I am grateful to Paula and the Atlantic Institution for inviting me to speak with you all today and do a cooking demo. Since this is about cuisines around the world, I was leaning initially to do something kind of French, Italian, and then I landed on more Asian because I think really I like Asian food a little bit more than some of the other cuisines lately. It just has a lot more flavor, a lot more umami to it. So I thought that would be a good one for us to demo today, as well as it doesn't take that long to cook if you have everything prepped ahead of time. And you can get a lot of these things already prepackaged. So someone asked already if they needed to prep some things. It would be good if you had prepped some things, but I'm going to go back and forth over some of it. So it won't be hard to catch up no matter where you are. The first thing we're going to have is the spaghetti squash. And what you need to do is to cut this in half. And I prepped this part earlier because this part, roasting in the oven, is going to take 30 minutes. And I'm sure you all have more important things that you'd like to do today than stand here and watch me wait on the oven to cook the spaghetti squash for 30 minutes. But, so I do have that prep, but what I want to do is to show you how you can cut this spaghetti squash yourself. So spaghetti squash is very tough. As you see with the cleaver here, you're not going to be able to really, I mean, you can get it in there, but it's going to take a lot of muscle. Usually I spend a lot of time hacking it and it just gets messed up. Easy way to do this is just to get you a dish towel. And I'm just going to wet this a little bit. Into a dish towel. And then you're going to wrap your spaghetti squash in the towel. I'm going to wash it, put a little more water to it once again. And then you can pop it in your microwave. You just sit it on the glass tray in there. And I usually put it on like 10 minutes. And what that's going to do is help soften it up so that you can cut it and then scoop the seeds out that you'll need to do, okay? So while that is heating up in the microwave, what you can do now is go ahead and prep your cabbage. And I think we also have a small onion to dice up as well. You can use an already minced onion, you know, pre-made, prepackaged. But for this, I usually like to use a fresh onion. So we can go ahead and cut up some of the other things while that's heating up in the microwave. For one, we have an onion. And I think it's one small onion, but this was a fairly good size one. So I just cut it in half and then have the rest of it here. So if you have an onion, you can chop along with me if you like. And I'm not going to be able to get it as good as mixed, but it will be down to a fine dice. Okay. So yeah, hopefully you can see me here. Oh, it's not what I want to use. This is not going to take that long. Like I said, this dish is very quick. Just pop them back in there. As I dice, you see, I just use little sections at a time. If you're not a big onion lover, you don't have to use the entire small onion. You can always use just half of it. Like I said, you can also use pre-minced onions that come in a jar. It's a very quick process. I'm very partial, like I said, to the Asian cooking. The only thing is a lot of the Asian cooking is high in carbs, can be, and then also high in sodium a lot of times, because all that great flavor that comes from soy sauce or teriyaki sauce or oyster sauce and hoisin sauce, all of that is very high in sodium. So when you're cooking Asian dishes, if you want to stay healthier, you want to look for low sodium brands of each item, or do some substitution with vegan substitutions like coconut aminos or regular aminos for your soy sauces and that kind of thing. So that's the other great thing about this dish. It lends itself to lots of different substitutions. There'll be a lot of happy people today because since I'm demoing this, that means that's food for us to eat, for my family. And then there'll be an extra one since I'm also showing you how to do the spaghetti squash. So there'll be food again later for probably my neighbors. They seem to like it when I do cooking demos. In addition to this, I also work full-time in one of the local hospitals, and my staff also enjoy when I do cooking demos as well, and cooking classes, because I always have something left over and then I bring it to work. So they're always looking forward to see what did I cook over the weekend. A little bit of a mess, but that's all right. All right, so we got our onion cut up. The only other thing we need to cut up would be our Napa cabbage. And with this recipe, what I normally do is I will substitute. You can use Napa cabbage, or you can use store-bought tricolor coleslaw. You can use a bag and a half. That's about all you need for this recipe. So I have that on standby as well. And then I already have carrots that are already shredded. I usually add a little bit more to the coleslaw to give it just a little bit more bulk. So that saves yourself some time. That helps this meal pull together really, really quickly. But since we have some time on our hands here, I'm gonna go ahead and cut up some of the Napa cabbage that I got earlier today. And I rinsed off. I'm gonna pull off some of these outer leaves still. Yes. Right. Then I'm just gonna cut down. Just cut small strips so they'll come out, you know, kind of like confetti. And this was I think just a little over 2 pounds Napa cabbage. And that's about as far down as I want to go. Okay. All right. I'm just going to take that and put it on a plate, have it for later. So everything is at least prepped. Okay. Rinse this off. All right. So now if you need to chop your ginger, we also have chopped ginger. We're going to use 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to use ginger powder. I have not taken the time or effort to ever chop any ginger, and I don't use it enough to where I figure I need to keep that in the house. So usually I just keep ginger powder on hand. So now, 2 minutes to go on that. And then I'll show you how we cut that up, and I'll take the other one out. We'll let you see what we do with that. In the meantime, I can go ahead and open up another bag. So this is the good thing, like I said, with this recipe, a lot of it already pre-done for you. You don't have to spend a lot of time chopping and bopping in the kitchen, as they say. Everything is already kind of pre-made for you if you want to go that route. Also good in this dish would be Chinese 5-spice. Maybe in place of ginger, you could use that instead. I've done that before. That's good. The other thing we need is chopped green onions. I just have some of those left as well. I keep a lot of this stuff in the house, so I'll just go ahead and chop up some of that. And this is going to be used in the dish, but it's also going to be used as a garnish as well. And I love adding green onions to my dishes. Green onions, and I think a splash of lemon juice really livens up your dishes. These are all right. I am curious to know the folks out there who said they were from Virginia. Where in Virginia? My husband's from Virginia, so I wonder if there's anybody from his area near Smithfield or Hampton. I have a friend also in Richmond, Virginia. Is anybody out in that area? And who do we have from South Carolina? So now we got us a little bit of green onion cut, so that's ready to go. That's ready. Clean as we go. All right. The other thing we're going to need is some shredded chicken. Now, I don't know if you have already done your chicken or not. The simplest thing to me on any recipe that says shredded chicken, I go to the local grocery store and I buy a rotisserie chicken already cooked. Saves me a lot of time, a lot of effort. I sometimes will keep like 2 cooked rotisserie chickens in the freezer just for any given moment. I need to pop it out, thaw it, heat it up a little bit, and shred it. I also keep probably 2 whole chickens in the freezer at any time as well, just so if I know that I've got a recipe coming up that requires some shredded chicken, I can go ahead and just roast it myself, like in an air fryer, and then put it right back in the freezer. Saves you a lot of time. My spaghetti squash is done. Ooh. Very hot. It's sizzling now. Okay. So what I'm going to do while that is taking a moment to cool is I'm going to show you, like I said, your rotisserie chicken. I had already cut up most of this chicken and they gave me 2 cups. So that's already done. But for those who may not know what shredding a chicken is about, I saved the rest of it. And I'm just going to show you this little bit. If the chicken's already roasted, you got your skin on, you just need to peel that skin off. And like I said, you're saving yourself some time. Peel the skin, because you don't want the fat in your dish. Take the bones out, open that up, and basically just pull the meat off the bones. That's all you're doing. Pulling that meat off, getting as much off the bone as you can, and then discarding that. A little bit of skin here. So again, taking your skin off, you see fat signs of fat, take that, Toss that away. Bone. And this would be the same way you would do like pulled pork, for example. When you do pulled pork, Boston butt, or whatever, you cook it in the slow cooker. And then when you get it out, you put it on a cutting board like this. And all you're gonna do is you can get a fork or 2 forks, and then like to shred the meat away from the bone. You can also use your hand, or you can use a knife. So now
They want
I
to
have
know if
meat.
it can be boiled instead of rotisserie.
Yes. Can you do boiled chicken, you say?
Yes.
Yes, you can do boiled chicken as well. I will put some seasoning in the water, you know, a little bit of salt and pepper or something like that, so that the chicken also has a little bit of flavor to it. But yes, you can just boil the chicken or poach it. That's just fine. And then once you have it on your cutting board, like I said, you can take a fork, you can take your fingers, you can take a knife, and all you're doing basically is, like I say, you're shredding up the chicken so that you got, again, like little pieces shredded. If you want to dice it, you can do that too. But this recipe calls for it to be shredded. So that's pretty much all you're doing, is just cutting the chicken up, shred it with a fork. They make a shredder. It looks like 2 bear claws, and you put it in the meat and then just pull it apart. That's all you keep doing, just pulling it apart. So we'll chop up some of this. This will be some for later. All right, put this on a plate. Okay, so now we got our chicken. The whole thing about the rotisserie chicken being shredded is not going to be uniform. So you're not looking for specific, you know, uniform cuts and dices and that kind of thing. It's just shredded and just torn up. Wash my hands and my knife since I've been cutting up chicken. Unlike the Food Network, I don't have anybody just standing here holding up, giving me brand new utensils to use while I go along, unfortunately. And I'm gonna rinse this side of this cutting board. And since I have my chicken on that side, even though I've rinsed it off, I'm gonna use the other side now. Just extra protection to prevent cross-contamination. All right, so now what we have is the spaghetti squash. So that's nice. We'll take this off a little bit. And then what we want to do now, we should be able to, see how easy that goes in now? Now that it's been cooked enough to soften it up, voila. It's quite warm, so that's why I still have that towel there. But 10 minutes, can't remember what size this was, may have been probably 2.5 pounds, I think, for this. So at least 10 minutes, wet dish towel, and just let it go. Now what you want to do is you have to clean the insides out so that we can oil it down. So now to do that, take this out. So start cooling down. In order to get the insides out of this, and this is something which, you know, everybody may not know. I did not know this when I first started working with spaghetti squash. I spent time trying to actually go through and get the little seeds out. I will say that. I was not used to spaghetti squash. I did not know what to do with it. I also spent that time hacking it, trying to get it to split open. So time and a little bit of experience have taught me a lot. So what you need to do now is you just get your spoon and you can just go through and get the little pieces out here. It looks like it's strings, and it'll have the seeds in it. That's what you want to get out. So you're just cleaning that out. Like I said, just doing it in the microwave helps. It helps you to be able to clean it better. And I'm just raking this in the sink. It's not going to keep that part, but what you can do with these seeds later, you don't have to throw away the seeds. You can actually put this, like scrape it into a colander, for example, and rinse it out. Keep your seeds. And then you can have your seeds, let them dry. You can put them in a dehydrator. You can put them in an oven, like a little bit of salt and pepper. You can put a little bit of olive oil, or you can put a little bit of cinnamon on them, possibly a little cardamom. So they will serve as a little snack for you as well. You can mix them with other seeds if you like, or with peanuts or anything, or just by themselves. But that's also an additional dish that you can have with the spaghetti squash. Just scoop that last little bit out. All right, so that's 1/2 done. And then we do the other half. Right? Like I said, a lot of times, if you're doing this in the microwave, you may want to give it just a few minutes to cool down. Or like I say, if you're not, then make sure you're using your cloth, because this is really hot. Really simple. Your main goal, like I said, is just to get rid of the seeds. So when you finish, it's kind of clean through like that. Okay. So now what we're going to do is you want to oil this down and then put it in the oven to let it roast, because now it's going to actually cook. This was just to make it soft. So now you can do some olive oil. And I think this was like 1 teaspoon each. Just eyeballing it. Okay. This is just going to keep this from drying out in the oven. So once you put it in, get your oil in. Now you want to massage it all around on the inside, because that's what you're mainly concerned about. You don't care about the outside. You're not going to be cooking with that. So you want to oil the inside of the spaghetti squash. And like I said, this is to help keep it from drying out in the oven. Right. So now what you're going to do is just take this and you're going to put it on a baking sheet. I'm going to transfer my other ones over here. Your oven should be at 200 degrees. And so you're just going to sit them on the baking sheet like this. Preheat your oven. It should already be preheated. And I'm going to put them in. And they're going to cook now for 30 minutes. And that's pretty much it. You just let it go. Turn that down a little bit. So I hope you all found that part useful if you have not ever used a spaghetti squash before. And the spaghetti squash is really what's going to take the place of our noodles, the chow mein noodles. That's what the spaghetti squash is for. That's what one of the things that helps lighten up this dish. So now I'm going to turn my pan on. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of oil in here. And for this, we use, I'm going to use, yes, the toasted sesame oil. We use 1 tablespoon to heat this up. I like to use infused olive oils. So not to use the regular toasted sesame, you can, that is perfectly fine. There's just more sodium actually in the toasted sesame oil than the olive oil. This again helps make it healthier. So I'm just gonna pour that in the pan. Step off for just a second. All right, so now what we're gonna do is scrape this out of here. And you just use your fork. Checking on one other thing first. Okay. Now that's all you're doing. You're taking it and you're scraping it and you're pulling up basically what is the spaghetti. It's the noodles. And that's really simple. And again, if you take this right out of the oven, you want to let it cool down just a little bit so that you can handle it. This I cooked yesterday and just heated it up again in the oven, but it was still able to be used straight from the refrigerator. You get me another plate. And then I'm just going to put this on the plate. And spaghetti squash is very, very filling. So this will definitely fill you up just like the noodles would. You just scrape till you can't get anything else out of there. And you're left with the shell. You can do lots of things with spaghetti squash too. You can use this, maybe not take as much out, and you can fill it with like hamburger and tomato sauce and onions, like you cook a lasagna and put it inside and top it with cheese. You can do all kinds of things with spaghetti squash. I do a cooking class on vegetables as a vessel, and shows you all about like using spaghetti squash and zucchini and different things and actually using those for your bowls. Same thing. Get that out. If you find a seed or two left in there, just discard it. Okay. So just get out as much as you can. Just clean that out as much as you can. And it's really, really, like I said, really easy. Okay. That's going to be it for this one. I think I saw a seed there somewhere. It'll pop back up. Okay. All right, so now we have that much done. Now you see how much that is? That's going to take place of a lot of noodles right there. Okay. So that's warming up. All right, so now we've got our spaghetti squash done. We got our oil heating up in the pan. Now we're going to add some crushed garlic. Be right back. Sorry about that. For my crushed garlic, I just use the jar garlic. If my friend is joining us here today, I know she's probably about to have a fit because she's all about now using fresh garlic. I haven't really gotten to that point yet, but I will. So we're going to put our crushed garlic and the onions in the pan. All right, put the onions down first so there's a barrier for the garlic to go on so that it won't burn. Let me do this. Clean up a little more. I can bring this into focus. Okay. Now we got everything in front of us. So now we're going to do is let this cook a little bit till the onion has softened. Stir it around to make sure it gets the oil coated on everything. You can't see in the pot, but it's delicious. It looks good, it already smells good. That toasted sesame oil is the best thing in the world. It's of such a good flavor. Once that's softened, we're going to add our carrots, the ginger, and the cabbage. And for the ginger, we've got 2 tablespoons. And again, feel this as you go. I'm really not that big on heavy on ginger, so I may not use 2, but like I said, if you're following along with the recipe, use the 2. And all you're looking for with your onions is for them just to get a little translucent and softened up. You don't want the garlic to burn. So I keep stirring and then I keep patting it back down to basically like give a bed to the garlic. Go ahead and put in 2 tablespoons of the ginger. And then I do have carrots, like this. I am going to use some of the carrots regardless, but they're in my mix. I'm just using a handful. And if you buy these already cut like this, if you want to, you can always, again, chop them in half, make them smaller, whatever you like. I'll stir this up a little bit again, and then I'll add my cabbage. Which for this, I will go ahead and use the Napa cabbage. Put that in. And like I said, I'm also going to use my coleslaw as well. Normally, I wouldn't have the Napa cabbage. I would just have a bag and a half of the coleslaw. You can do either one. You can do both. You want a lot of vegetables in this. So what this Napa cabbage is done, instead of me using a bag and a half, I use 1 bag and then I use the head of Napa cabbage. I'm just going to try to give everything a little bit of a stir to get everybody all incorporated, get that toasted sesame oil on everything. I hope some of you are cooking along out there. If you are, your house is probably smelling really good right about now. We're going to let that cook for a little bit, and it's going to cook for about 4 to 5 minutes. And that's going to be long enough for the cabbage to wilt and for the carrots to get a little soft. I'm just going to put that in there. While that is cooking, this is just the rest of my chicken. While that is cooking, spaghetti squash, which will be coming up next. Chicken. Okay. I am going to start on the sauce. Put that back here on the stove. So basically with our sauce, if you're following along with the recipe, we're going to have 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos, a teaspoon of honey, if you want to include that, a teaspoon of white wine vinegar, and a tablespoon of the sesame oil. So let's get started. The coconut aminos, I just have liquid aminos. This is basically like a vegan version of soy sauce. The coconut aminos would make it a little bit sweeter, but it's not sweet enough to me where I want to buy that as opposed to just the regular one. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons. About stove on about medium high. And if you don't have aminos and you just want to use soy sauce, you can always just use soy sauce as well. So now we're going to use a teaspoon of honey. Love the addition of honey. If you wanted to skip the honey and maybe use a packet of stevia, you probably could use that as well if you did, or just omit this altogether. Like I said, if you're using the coconut aminos, it may keep it a little sweet for you anyway, so then you may not want to use this. A teaspoon of white wine vinegar. For that, I'm using a rice vinegar. You can buy regular white wine vinegar, but if you don't have that on hand, you have rice vinegar, that works as well. We'll use a teaspoon of that. I know this doesn't seem like much for a sauce, but it works. And then a tablespoon of the sesame oil. So I'm going back to my olive oil. If you're using the regular sesame oil, you use that. 1 tablespoon. Okay. It's a quick stir. This is coming along nicely. If you're cooking along at home, go ahead and stir your dish. Keep that heat circulating. Okay. So I have my eye on about medium high. And all we're going to do is just let this cook, heat through for about 5 minutes, and then it will get added to the pot. I'm thinking I need to do more cleaning as I go. Okay. Pretty much, this is all that you have left, is just to stir, get this wilted, and then we'll add our chicken and the spaghetti squash. Oh yeah, it's coming along good. Really, really good. Okay. Anybody out there cooking along, let me know how your dish is coming. Then we're going to turn that over. Then we're going to be ready. So we've got 5 minutes. Right. Yeah. You probably could also do this dish, and instead of using spaghetti squash, you could also use zucchini noodles. Use I guess it's called a zoodler, a spiralizer. That's the name. And you can cut your zucchini up and put it in there and make the spiral noodles out of it, and then cut them up probably, about yay long, just enough for you to twirl on your fork. You could also substitute that because this is not going to cook that long, the spaghetti squash. So you can do the same thing with zucchini noodles as well. So this dish lends itself to a lot of variety, a lot of substitutions, everything. There's still a lot of flavor. The longest part, like I said, is roasting the butternut squash. Everything else will come together, as you see, really quickly. Are there any questions, Paula, that I can't see? Or I can keep going?
They just wanted to know where this recipe was from, and I said that it's a healthier chicken chow mein.
Okay. I found this recipe online. I do a lot of searching for healthy cooking, but foods that I like. Find ways to change them up. Some are recipes that I have, and I shoot some of my videos on my Flavor Fork page on Facebook. There are some that I know, like we used to cook back home, and then I find an ingredient or two that make that dish maybe not as healthy, and then I find, you know, good substitution. So instead of using rice for some things, I may use cauliflower rice. Like I said, instead of using pasta noodles for a dish, I may substitute and use zucchini noodles or brown rice pasta noodles, something like that. Or if it has sugar in the dish, maybe instead of the full amount of the sugar, I'll use half of the amount of the sugar, or I use a substitute like stevia in the raw, something like that. Things to keep your dish healthy. Find a way to put more vegetables in the dish. You know, if it won't overwhelm the dish, if it calls for like a half of a bell pepper, then I might use a whole bell pepper, or use half of a green, half of a red. So to be a little bit sweet in there, the green bell pepper doesn't overtake it if I use the whole thing. So just finding different ways, like I said, to lighten up your food. If anybody's ever interested, like I said, I have videos out on my Facebook page, Flavored For. There are plenty of videos out there. I do a little thing once a month, just about called Wine and Wisdom, where I basically chat with someone via Zoom on Facebook Live with a glass of wine. Turn this down so we can simmer with a glass of wine, and we'll talk about a certain subject and then cook a meal as well, or dish. One of my guests one time was the owner of this olive oil and balsamic store here in Lexington called the Classy Cruet. And that is where I get all of these olive oils and vinegars from. So everybody got a chance to take a virtual tour of her store. And then the next time we met up, I cooked one of her favorite dishes. So do a lot of things like that. So check those out. There's also recipes on there from my affiliation with Healthy Hands Cooking, which was out of Valentine, South Carolina. That is a lot of the cooking classes that I offer for kids. But a lot of the recipes can be changed a little for adults as well. So a dish like this would also be shown to kids, show them how to cook dishes like this as well. So we have a lot, like probably close to 1,000 recipes out there to choose from with Healthy Hands Cooking. All right, so now my sauce is warmed up. And now we're going to do is we're going to add in the chicken, which I'm going to use this one, at least most of it. Leave it a little bit for later. Very little bit. All right, since I have my other one, that'll be for later. Turn that off, and then we're going to add in all of this spaghetti squash. Slides right in. Use the fork to kind of get this, to get the strings separated here a little bit. Get the spaghetti going. And basically, like I said, you're just heating this through. I'm gonna use some
Natalie,
of my.
they'd like the link to your Facebook page.
Oh, okay. If you, I can't do it now, but I can post it. It's just, what is it? Facebook.com/flavored4, FLAVORED, Flavored For. I don't know if you can see the shirt. Well, it might be too bright, but that's me. And then I'm going to put in some green onions. Not a lot, because I'm going to save some for my garnish. And then pour my sauce. So it's not a lot, but it's enough to add the flavor that you need. Okay. I'm just going to mix this up. Going to get everything in. Make sure it gets coated with that little bit of sauce there. From the bottom to the top, and then pull it back. Once it looks like everything has been coated with it, we're going to let it sit for a sec, just so it can warm the spaghetti squash through and the chicken. And then with that, I will get me a plate. And when I'm ready to give it a try. See how quick that was? We were done in almost no time at all. This would,
The floor, please.
so the extra 30 minutes would have just been spent watching the watching the spaghetti squash cook. And let that heat cook. Feel like somebody's mom saying, "Stop playing with it. Stop messing with it." Well, make sure that it gets warmed up. This is a quick meal. This is a big pot of food that took no time to cook. So you would have several meals from this. So this would be what we're eating till some today, watching the football game. It'll be leftovers for tomorrow or my lunch come Monday. I don't know if I move this, it is going to turn off for a second, but I do want you to be able to get a good look and see how much is in this pot. Look at that. That's a lot. That is a lot. All right. So with that pretty much does this dish here. I'm going to take the spaghetti squash out that we had cooking at 200. And basically, like when we first started, if you're now on this part, basically let this cool down a little bit so that you can handle it. And then you take your fork, like I showed you earlier, and you're just going to scrape these insides to pull the spaghetti noodles up, and then set them on a plate, and then you ready to go with the rest of it. So like I said, that'll be for a second dish. Yes, ma'am.
I believe they wanted to know that.
Come again?
They wanted to know what power do you microwave the squash?
Mine doesn't have like high or low, but I would say put it on high if you have different settings like that, and just do 10 minutes. That's all you're gonna need. As long as you got that wet paper towel to create that steam and soften it up, that's it. Okay. All right, this is warmed through. So now it's time to plate our spaghetti squash chow mein. Make sure I'm getting my chicken. And this is the other thing that I like about using the tricolored coleslaw. I like a lot of colors in my dish. When you're cooking or trying to cook healthy, at least one of the things that I have been taught, and I try to teach others as well, is to eat the rainbow. So you don't want just like a one colored dish. The more colors you have, the more flavors you have, so also probably more health benefits you have in these different things. All foods have different purposes in order to help you be healthier. So you want to eat the rainbow is what I like to call it. So here's our finished dish. And as always, you have to try your product. And as you saw, I topped it off with some of the green onions.
They want to know what size pot did you use? What size pot?
What size pot? That is a good question. Hold on. Let me ask my husband, because I don't know. Dear, do you happen to know what size pot this is? It's like a 17-inch something. That big skillet one that I have. 12? 12 inch. Okay. All right. 12 by 12. Okay. All right. My husband says this is probably a 12 by 12 pan. I think this is what you would call one of those, I just saw in the store the other day, an everyday pan. So it's not tremendously large because I have another one that's even bigger than this. So probably a 12 by 12 pan. If I can find, I don't remember if I ordered this online or not. I think I did. So if I remember that, I can send that to Paula if she wants to post it somewhere so you can see where I got it from, and it'll tell you what size it is. Okay. The recipe, I think, calls it like a standard skillet. But again, I would have a skillet about this big, not a small one, because like I said, you got a big bag of that coleslaw and the Napa cabbage to cook. Oh, my goodness. All right, moment of truth. All right. Mhm. I'm too far back, so you can't hear the crunch, but there's a crunch going on too. And you could also add, I would think, bean sprouts. Add more vegetables to it if you like, as well. Mhm. Very good, very flavorful. Are there any other questions out there that I could answer for anyone? Paul, is there anything else you needed for me to mention?
No, I just had a lady ask about what to do with the yellow squash, but she came in kind of late. So I've told her that we'll have access to the recording around YouTube next week. So
Okay.
Yep.
All
and
right.
there's also Amy, there's a link to the recipe further up. Let me see if I can get that on here again. No. Hang on. Paste. There we go. There's the link to the recipe.
Very easy, and like I said, you could always feel free to make substitutions, more or less of one thing or another. Prepackaged items, that makes this go really fast, cuts down on your prep time and everything. This is one of the easiest dishes that I have found, one that I like the most. You could double up the sauce if you'd like. I would probably suggest that. But other than that, that is pretty much it. I mean, it's going to have that same great flavor that you'd be used to getting from an Asian restaurant or something. This is really good, and it's a way to be healthier as well. Oh, I've been enough help.
So I want to thank everybody for coming. If you haven't, because I know a few of you come in late, if you put in the chat where you're from, if you're in the United States, the state and the city and state would be awesome. If you're outside of the United States, the city and country would be awesome. We love seeing everybody from all over the world for these. Does anybody have any more questions for Natalie?
And thank you to the folks who joined.
All right, I want to thank everybody.
The United States.
Yep, I'm going to stop the recording now. And if you have any more questions, you are more than